Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on a Kingpin set. What's a Kingpin? Well, a Kingpin is where your spindle on the front end of your tractor or truck on heavier equipment has this pin, a hardened pin that goes down through here. So here's the used one. It goes in here and it doesn't fit very good because there's a little bit of rust in the middle, but what you can see here, as you can see how much that wiggles, that's wore out. Same way on the bottom, if we stick it up through the bottom, you see that side to side wiggle? That's no good. And on top of that, we also had, this was the, let's call it the thrust bearing. Takes all the load to the front end of the tractor. I'll set it down to next to the new one, and you can see there's quite a bit of difference in height. There's not even a gap in between here. See, there's a gap in here where your bearings go, and when you push down on this, you should be able to rotate it. With the bearings, this one's just a big thick washer now. Not good. Well, both sides of the tractor was this way. I save a lot of time on the videos from you guys having to watch me clean parts, so I've actually gotten these into the solvent tank, gotten this cleaned up, that cleaned up, that's cleaned up. Nope, because we got a new one of those. So we did a lot of cleaning, but I wanted to demonstrate and show you guys how to, let's just say, properly install new bushings and Kingpin set into your tractor or truck or whatever you may need. The other tool we're going to need here, I'll set you down right here, is a line reamer. I'm calling it it's a hand reamer. It's a piloted hand reamer. Why is that stuck? There we go. So this has a reamer. These are cutting blades here. This has a pilot on the end that a bushing can slide on. And that lines up on your other hole while you're reaming out this hole. It's got a hex drive, that's square, that you can put your T-handle on, and you can hand ream these out to size. It's been a long time since I've done these. I used to do this kind of stuff a lot back in my early days. Won't trade that experience. Wouldn't trade it for the world. So first thing we got to do is drive out this old bushing. Let's see if I can get you guys a little closer here where the camera's hanging up. I want you to see stuff. Now, I did hop on a lathe, and I whipped up a couple of handy-dandy tools. This one's out of steel. This diameter is smaller than the OD of the bearing. This will allow me to drive these bearings out of this spindle. Get your favorite BFH, and it's moving, so it's moving in my vise too. Let's make it this a little tighter. Got a lot of leverage out here. Let's set this aside. There we go. Old bushing. The old bushing is a split bushing. Interesting. The new one is not. Let's put this down. Let's see if we can get the other one out. Now, one thing I will tell you about these old pens, they're hard. They will chip, they will shatter, they will send debris flying if you're hitting it on the corners. Ask me how I know. Ask me. Well, I broke the other one, chipped it up, the old one. Didn't care, but that was while I was removing it. Looks like this is working like a champ. There we go. Bushings, old ones out. This one also was a split one. Now we'll go ahead and wipe out some old, just some old out of here. Let's just get rid of some of the old. Now one of the things that helped destroy this one when it came to, and luckily it didn't get any further than it did as far as destroying things, is the grease zerk was gone. So who knows how long it's been since it's been greased. The other side, the grease zerk was there, but I could not get grease through it. Could that have been because a little bit of friction, this spun? It doesn't look like it's spun in there at all. But was that hole properly lined up so grease could get into the bushing? There's a few key things I want you to watch for. Forget where I found this. It's an 8-inch Crescent brand. It's a little rusty. Cleaned it up. Smooth as butter. Let's go ahead and get this grease zerk out of here. The new kit came with 2 new ones, which we shall use. We're going to see if we can pop some air through here. Yep, that was a hard core there. There we go. It would appear that this zerk is broke off in here. Yep, broke clean off. We'll get an easy out and back that out. Now I'm going to show you a little trick here. I've got an Allen wrench that I have put a little point on one end. I don't have an easy out this size. That's what I'm trying to say here. But sometimes, just sometimes, I'll give this a whirl here. Maybe not every time. I ended up grinding that curved end of the Allen wrench off, because the L shape off of it, because it already was twisted. This is an old Allen wrench. It was a piece of junk. So they're gonna back it out for me? Yes. That was cool. I was able to actually drive that on in there. It was just too bouncy trying to hit it on that end, but here we go, here we go. But you love it when a plan comes together. Broken off grease zerk. So if somebody would have done that a long time ago, they might would have, not had the problem they had here with it. They'd been able to grease it. Okay, that saved me a trip to the Hardmore store. Let's go ahead and blow that out now that I've got it. Threads are all cleaned out. Oh, dropping my stuff on the floor. Okay. Some other very important things to pay attention to here. There's your hole for your grease zerk to be lined up with. So you want to make sure when you're driving this back in that you've got that lined up. Now the other thing you got to watch for is you don't want to put the top one in the bottom one and the bottom one in the top one. And the reason I say that is you can see here where that grease, let's see if I can get this in here for you, but that grease hole comes through here, but the grooves do not come out this end. If you look inside, the groove right there spirals up and comes out this end. Well, the outside, out this inside, you want pointing toward the inside, toward in the middle here. And what that does for you is it allows you to get grease to your bearings and the upper face here. That's your wear points. So I'm looking at this one going, well, that's no good. They're made the same. Now what do you do? Tell me, what do you do now? So I want the grease to go toward the inside. Actually, I take that back. You can have this grease go in, and some will come out down on the bottom here, and then up around the top, so you can flush the dirt out. On the bottom one, line up that grease hole. That groove comes out to the top and allows it to come past and into that thrust bearing. So we should be okay doing that. I was a little worried there for a minute. Now the other thing, I'm lining up these holes here to make sure I got that straight on. Now this other driver, I just turned it down so it fits loosely in the ID, and it's tall enough that I can eyeball it to make sure I'm driving it in straight. Everything looks good so far. And I also made this face big enough so it'll bottom out on this face, so I don't drive it in too deep. I want that to be a little bit below flush. So now I'll use my other steel one. I'll clean all the garbage off of it. Right there is where I want it. Maximum contactimus. Now I'm not going to put the grease zerk back in it yet because I still want to, I got to ream these out to fit the pin. Flip this over here. Now this time we want to make sure the hole is up, because our grease zerk is now on the bottom, or up top now. Is this all making sense? I hope so. These little bushing drivers really make the job go a lot easier. I can eyeball this as just little taps here. And if you hit these taps and you're not feeling movement, you might be crooked. This one's moving right along. Now, could you press these in? You betcha. If you had a hydraulic press, you could press them in as long as you supported everything properly. Don't fool yourself. A little bit of tap with a big hammer like this, that's a lot of force that it's taking to drive this bushing in. It's just that when you're hit with a hammer, you've got shock, which shock makes things move a lot easier than with a press. All right, beauty, Clark. We got both holes lined up. Looking good. Now what you'll notice is this will not fit. There is no way that's going to fit because these bushings didn't fit before I drove them in. Now that they have a press fit, the ID of the bushing is actually going to shrink a little bit. And this is where your reamer comes in. So let's go ahead and get this up in the air a little bit so I don't have anything below here. Now you want to adjust your reamer. I'm going to spin this around so you guys can see the business end of it here. Now if you don't have your vise on a big brake drum like I have, what are you doing? It's actually pretty handy. As you can see here, this will not fit. These are adjustable. So if I back this off, it's gonna come down this way. I can screw this down. These grooves in here are tapered. As you can see, you can barely see a groove here. And you can see a deep groove here. For all these blades, it's slotted for that. So we'll back this one off, tighten this one down until we get it to just start to fit in there. Where this other piece comes in is where you can set that right in there like that. And by the time you put this in here and that in there, that's why they call it a piloted reamer. This is getting you in line so you're not crooked and you're not taking out too much material. You can get these to fit without a pilot, but you can accidentally, these things will take out a lot of material very quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can back this off a little bit. Oh. Let's use the old T-handle here to hold it. This is just your standard T-handle tap driver that I've got up here. Can you guys see what I'm doing here? Right in here. So I'm going to back this off just a little bit. That's pretty snug. We'll back that off and we'll tighten this down. And what that did is that just slid those blades down. And these nuts are cup shaped, so they trap this blade from both directions. Now I can go back in here and, yeah, that's still too tight. That's good. Drop your brand new bushing on the floor, Michael. I thought it was smooth before, but now that I dropped it, it has a ground finish. Get it? Ground finish. Yeah, that's a old machinist joke. Okay. I'm just going to keep sneaking it down until it fits. If you back these off too far, you can. Your blades might fall out. I'm just sneaking up on it is what I'm doing. Ooh, that wants to cut. But I don't want it to cut that much. These blades are brand new sharp, so they're going to grab real easy. And you can remove way more material than you wanted to in a hurry. So that slides in there pretty good a little ways. Let's just go ahead and send that one through. You can see the flakes of material coming out. You probably can't, I can. But it just shaves that right out of there. There we go. That makes a nice clean finish. Now what you want to do is you can have got a micrometer or something, you can check that bore size. Like right now that still doesn't fit. Now we're going to change gears for 1 second here because now that I've got it started in close, let's not ground finish that piece anymore. I'm going to turn it up on its edge. Let's see here. Can I grab it something like, what's the best way? So what I want to do is put the bushing in this half now and then go at it from this end. That's why I get to take both bushings out. Every time I make an adjustment, I'll go one side and then the other. And I'm leaving this in real time so you guys can get an idea. Now the fact that I know that the other side, the pin didn't go, I'm safe just going ahead and going after this one. And you can feel it get easier there. It means you're pretty much through. The other thing you can do is you have to hold this in. And you see that once you get to that point there, it's pretty much free. And always turn it clockwise, going in and going out. That will make sure that you don't leave any, it doesn't bind things up in there, it doesn't cause you any other issues. Now that we know that that didn't fit, now we're going to back this off. And snug this one up. I want to show you guys this. There, more grind and finish on that. I hope you can see this. I'm going to try to get you close. And if you got, I do this in 4K for a reason. But you can see the shavings that are in those flutes right now. So we've taken just very little off so far. Satisfying sound hearing that cut. And that's a lot of shavings coming out of there. That'd make a fella nervous is what it'll do. I don't want to go too big. Still tight. And this isn't a hurry up, get it done process. You want to take your time. And the other thing this is doing, if there's any imperfections in this alignment here, this is also helping you get this thing lined up. So the bushings are now going to be straight with the world, with one another, regardless of how this spindle was machined. I'm just going in here to see if that, yeah, that pretty much, when it bottoms out there, it's pretty much done all the cutting it's going to do. Now I'm getting ready to check this with a caliper. And I'm just going to tell you that the caliper is probably one of the worst ways you can check this. But if that's all you got, then it's one of the best ways. So right now that's like 1 inch 1/18 is the size of that. And our pin is 1 inch 1/27. We got about 9 thousandths to go. And if I had the other bushing for the other spindle, I would be doing this at the same time so I wouldn't have to repeat this process twice and I could just get them all done at once. But mistakes happen. Not on my end this time, but the supplier that I bought the Kingpin kit from, well, that time I went a quarter return. I'll go another quarter return, then we'll measure it and we'll be able to, see how much a quarter turn removes for us. Get some stats, some numbers, some information. So now we're going to go back in here. Oh boy. The boss is out here. Everybody straighten up. Shh. Stop telling them jokes. The boss is here. Hey boss. All right, let's get back. Ooh, that quarter return is going to remove some material. Yeah, she's just shaving. That was a quarter return. I have no idea how many thousandths that took out. Let's just hope it's not too much. Well, that took out 1 to 125. That took out quite a bit. So a quarter turn takes out about 6 or so thousandths, which is plenty. If I'd have done that one more time, it's going to be oversized. Now, you do want to have a little bit of room in there for grease. So the fact that, you know, you want it to not just fall through there and be sloppy and start with, let's just call it already wear. Well, that just sounds like it cuts so nice. I'll leave a link in the description below on where this came from, where I got this one. It actually, it's high-speed steel. It all seems to be pretty nice piece for the money. I got it off that Jungle website that everybody shops at, because that was the most economical place for me to get it, like $80-some. Now, that does not include the T-handle. Let's just say that right now. Yeah, we're still in good shape there. Still in good shape there. Okay. But, you know, if you go and pay somebody to do this, and I keep preaching this, I'm going to go about 1/8 of a turn now. You'll pay more for somebody to do it, or the same. You might end up with the same money for somebody to do this, depending on what they're charging for labor. You know, if this takes, let's just call an hour per spindle, at shop rate at $100 an hour, that's $200. You can buy, and you still got to buy the spindle kit and everything, right? You buy this for $80, buy this for another $30, $40. You come out a little cheaper. You're going to learn something while you're doing it. There are bearing drivers you can use to drive these bearings in and out. There's multiple ways to get those bearings out of there and back in. But you're going to learn something. You're going to take pride in doing it yourself. You're going to know it's done exactly how you want it done. Just saying. Now, the reason I get back to my story on why I did not have both bushing kits, well, I'll leave a link in the description below on where I bought this stuff from. I'm not completely satisfied to say their name out loud, just for the simple fact their service wasn't stellar this go round. I bought other stuff from them and I've had good experiences. I bought a whole bunch of parts. Let's just call it $1,800 worth of parts from them. And my experience wasn't 100% stellar. But people have bad days. Unfortunately, we've had 2 bad days in a row, so to speak, because I ordered a Kingpin set, right model, right everything, and I get an 1.25" pin and an 1 1/8" pin. I need an 1 1/8. So I got one good one, one bad one. So I get a hold of them. They're very good customer service wise. I got a hold of them. They said, "Oh shoot, go ahead and replace." I said, they said, "Ship yours back, and as soon as we get your wrong one back, we'll send you your new one." I'm like, I emailed them and I said, "This isn't fair. You've got my money. I've got bad parts, yet I'm the one paying the penalty of time, having to wait till I send mine back so you can send me another one." I get it. There's people out there that won't send the other one back. But you've got $1,800 of my money. I'm sure there's enough profit in there to cover my $88 Kingpin set. So anyway, I sent them an email explaining my displeasure of how they handled it. And they understood. And I didn't come from the point of complaining, just to complain. I come from a point of, I deal with customers and stuff too, and if you don't know what's going on in your company, you can't fix it. So the guy emailed me back, says, "We got your part, your other one's shipped. You should have it Monday," which is this video. This is currently a Saturday, and it would be next Monday. But then it showed up yesterday. I'm like, all right, sweet. It's early. And it's still wrong. They sent me another 1.25". I'm like, come on. So, but in the email he replied to, so I sent them an email, haven't heard back yet on what they're going to do with this one, because there again, I've still got a part and a kit I cannot use. And yet they still have my money. And I can only make a tripod out of my backhoe right now, because I can't put the other spindle back on. Now, my wife did say, can't you just put it back together temporarily? Well, this is a lot of work for temporary, so, and it'd be different if I had a job that I was performing for somebody, that I had to get a job done, then yes, I would just throw it back together and go from there. I'm sneaking up on it, guys. I'm not going very far at a time. But anyway, back to the story once again. I'm waiting for a reply. In the meantime, now what they did give me, in case you, so the link will be in the description below. I'm not mentioning the name of the company. If you want to get you some tractor parts or look up some parts, that's your own free will to do so. I'll leave a link in the description below, because the rest of the stuff I got's been great. This is the only hiccup I've had. If you use the code RMD in the description, you'll get 15% off, which is actually pretty good, because when I bought all these parts, I had them all in my shopping cart for a day or two, and I got an email from them saying, here's a 10% discount if you order now. So I did. So I've got, it was over $2,000 worth of parts, and I got 10% off. I wasn't unhappy about that. That was okay. But you guys can get 15% off. Now, I did order, because I don't want to wait in case they make yet a third mistake. Yes, I spent some extra money I probably shouldn't have. And I bought from another company, and I'll leave their link in the description below. They also have tractor parts at prices that are comparable and possibly even a little bit better. And that link will be in the description below too. No discount code with that other company, but anyway, you guys can choose what you want to do. I thought it was worth mentioning to them, because they have sponsored another video, and had, I don't even want to bring it up, but I had the wrong parts come to me the first time there too, and I said, no, I need this one and this part number, and this is what it looks like. And then they're like, oh, okay, sorry. They didn't make me send those parts back before they sent me new parts, but that's the way it goes. Now this is going really well, but as you can see, it's a slow process. And like I said, you don't want to get in a hurry and make too big of an adjustment, and then your pin's as loose as it was when you took it apart, because what good would that do you? Now the cool part about this, at least these pins, even if it is a little loose, it's going to be more round than the loose pins were. And the fact that we're going to have grease zerks that actually lubricate all this, and I've got me a battery-powered grease gun, and if you guys haven't got one of those, you're missing out, especially if you got a lot of greasing to do. Now, most people don't have as much greasing to do as you do when you have a tractor like this. There's grease zerks everywhere. But if you play around with all the old stuff, there's grease zerks all over the place. And this thing here, it says in the manual that you should grease it every 8 to 10 hours. So basically what they're telling you is grease everything every day. Because as you know, backhoes and tractors and bulldozers and all that stuff don't operate in what I would consider the, oh, we're getting so close, it wants to start. They don't operate in, surgical environments. Well, we're so close. Actually, it felt like that shaved out quite a bit. Because not always are these movements on these things completely incremental, but it's you just feel it just. So I didn't make much of an adjustment there at all. And you know, I mentioned something about leaving some room for grease. Well, or some lubrication, because think about it on your cars. Your car has an engine that has bearings in it that aren't roller bearings. They're not much more of a bushing than this is. Precision, of course. Of course, this is pretty precision now, the way I'm doing it. But they also have oil pressure on their side, which helps. This, you only have grease, and grease is thicker than oil. So you may need a little more. I took out a little something. You may need, you know, if there's a thou or two clearance here, that's not a lot of clearance. When I say a thou, I mean a thousandths, 0.001. Now, in the world I live in and work in, you know, we play around in tenths of a thousandths. A tenth of a thousandths is 0.00001. Nope. 3 zeros and a 1 is 1/10 of a thousandths. And people go, oh, well, what's that? Well, when I give tours and stuff at the plant, I tell people, I said, well, 1/10 of a thousandths is, let's just say a sheet of notebook paper, standard notebook paper, or the average size of a hair on somebody's head is about 3 thousandths thick. Now take that 3 thousandths and cut it into 30 equal slices. So edgewise on that paper, 30 equal slices. And 1/10 is one of those slices. And some people might think that's impossible. Well, it's not impossible to hold tolerances on something like that, because you also have the equipment to machine it and measure it as such. Man, they're so close. How can that be not there yet? Oh, it's just starting to start. Yep, just starting to start. Now, as you can see, it doesn't take that much adjustment or whatnot to get this to take out some material. Now, if I had both spindles here and was doing both at the same time, I'd literally cut my time in half, because I'd be doing this one, that one, this one, that one, make an adjustment. But now I have to, when I get the other one, I'll have to start over. Now, the advantage I'll have on the other one is that I will have already done this one, and when I'm finished, this will already be set to the finished size. Now, I don't want to take it to the finished size right away, because that'll be a lot of material to remove, and if you get things a little crooked or a little jacked up, you can, you know, there's opportunity for errors is what I'm saying. So the nice thing is I know I can mark this, back it off like 3/4 of a turn, and have a real good idea where it finishes at. The other thing I could do is I could microcross this and get me a size. Just for fun, I'm gonna do this here. Yeah, that's through. I love the way these work. Now let's talk kit. Like when you're buying one of those, you guys will be looking at, like this is an H12, they call it. H12 piloted hand reamer. What fell? Not my bushing driver. Boy, that is so close. Yeah, that went in It's starting in, it's going. Oh, see that there is just a little, I'm just about flush to the other end here, but that is way too tight. There's no room for lubrication. Now, yes, there's lubrication in the grooves, but you got also, the working surface needs to be riding in lubrication. So we don't have much more to go. Now, the other thing I want to, that's worth mentioning is when you grease stuff like this on a piece of equipment, especially the front spindle, like this, I can put the bucket down. I can actually lift the front tires off the ground. And I can take the pressure off these pins, so when I grease it, it allows that grease to go around more areas versus if you don't lift the front end off the ground. Now, the reason I'm leaving this in real time, I want you guys to understand, if you take it somewhere, what you're paying somebody to do. Because you definitely want it to be done right. And then also when you talk about clearance on stuff, clearance and contact area. Like this has got quite a bit of contact area in this pin. So once it's got like a 2 or 3 thousandths clearance here and goes to the other one, you won't feel any play. Just for the simple fact there is so much contact area on the diameter. Now 2 or 3 thousandths clearance on something that is a quarter this size will feel actually quite a bit sloppier. Just for the simple fact because of surface area. Now that I'm getting close, I want to make sure I keep doing. I'm still holding this in just to keep this piloted and lined up. Now my guess is I can slip this one all the way through here, but honestly it might be still a little too tight for my taste. Get the garbage out of here. And then we'll go back here and fit the pin. Ooh. Just about there. Now, as you can see that, I can push that all the way in by hand, but that is way too tight. There's no room for grease. So, we'll bump this back out. Open it up a little bit more. Because I really want this to slide through freely. I don't want it as tight as that was. Now, tight as that was, that's awesome. There's no play or anything. Great. Like I said, no room for grease. Yeah, this will probably be, take out about another 2 thou, and I think that'll be, yeah, I can tell by the amount of shavings that came out of there, that was, should be pretty good. Now, when you're turning these through, don't apply pressure one way or the other. Keep it uniform. Let the reamer do the work. Because you can actually cause this thing to, that's why I'm grabbing it in the middle here. you can actually cause this thing to make an out of round hole, just because you can shave more material off one side by leaning on it. There may be other applications that might be handy. Not this one. So that's why I'm always even pressure, letting the tool do the work. Now this is a dry fit, obviously. No lubrication on it at all. Oh, look at that. Just about where we want to be. See, we can go through one side or the other. It feels pretty good, but how it fits through the overall assembly is important, because this will probably slide in this side too. Yeah, see, there's a little tight spot there. And could that be on the pin? Possibly. But so you're trying to play with the law of averages here. This end is just a little tighter than the other end right now. Well, we're taking just the smallest increments now. Now that I know where I'm at on it. Now the reason I'm going back in this side, even though it already fits good, we're still line reaming it. We're still making sure things are staying in line. A little bit more out of this one here won't hurt, because it's, there again, you got to have room for the grease. I can't mention that enough. If it was a drinking game, there's some of you that are already be in a lot of trouble right now. If I mentioned grease, room for grease. Okay. Now you guys might be asking, why you keep blowing that out? Well, I don't want to, the bushings that are inside here, the lining of them are soft. It's steel back bronze bushings is what I think they are. I think that's bronze in there. And relatively soft material against this hard material. Look at that. Now we got something there, boys. Very nice, very nice. There's a tight spot there, but I'll tell you what. You can also do one of these a little bit here. I'm going to say that's good. Once I get a little grease in there, she'll be golden. Now's the time to reinstall your grease zerks. We blowed it all out. You can screw these back in. They're so fragile looking, little guys. Get my little found crescent wrench out and just These things will break off real easy, so I just use it in this direction. You can just give them a little tweakity turn. There we go. Now just for fun, we're going to get a little messy here. Boy, it's still a little sticky here and there. Let's just hit it with the grease for 1 second. And that all could be due to the dry fit. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a little... Now you can see the grease coming out on the ends there. It's a lot more fluid now. It does have grease all the way around in there. That's what I was checking, just to make sure it was, when I rotated it, that the grease was working its way around, and there's grease all the way around, which is perfect. Now there's another part about this process we need to learn a little bit about. And there again we have the thrust bearing, which will sit down against this face. Which face is it? This one's up. So this would be down against this face here. So that, and here you got to keep in mind the weight of the entire tractor, front of the tractor with the loader bucket full, is pressing down on this bearing right here. The other thing we've got is shims. I bought a shim kit. When you put this on, you want to make sure that this is down against here, and then you're going to shim the top side with shims so that this thing doesn't bounce back and forth on your axle. Because if that's bouncing back and forth, that's beating the crap out of this thing, and it's beating the crap out of this, and it's like hitting it with one of these that weighs about 5,000 pounds. That's why you want to be very... you want to do this right? Okay, the other thing we want to watch out for is this pin. It may or may not be in the center of this, the slot here may not be in the center of this pin. So, you want to take your handy dandy tape measure. And you can measure from the end. So that's 3 9/16 from the end, 4 1/8 from the end. So what you're going to notice here, this needs to stick out the same distance. Basically from both ends is what it'll do. And so you need to measure your axle to find out where this needs to be, because you've got a lock pin. This lock pin goes through the hole in your axle, draws into this. It's tapered. Draws into this and tightens down and locks this, so this pin doesn't wiggle. It maintains tight surface area and doesn't come out on you. Doesn't eventually, fall out on you, because this is the only thing holding it from falling out besides just the sheer weight of the tractor. Last but not least, you got these O-rings that'll pop onto here, and what those will do is they'll sit down on that there in the right position, and when you pump grease in here, the grease will come out, but it helps keeping dirt from getting back in here. Grease is coming out on the inside as well, which is keeping dirt from getting back into your bushing. The goal is to keep the dirt out. Yep, for sure. Dare we take all our toys and go out to the tractor and try to install it? I think so. Now, like I said, your pin has the off-centered slot in it. This is actually in the center here. So you want the long side on the bottom. And the reason that is you're not only going through, you're sticking out the bottom, you also got to go through this bearing. This bearing will actually sit on the bottom. So when you're all through, you got everything lined up, you've got the same amount sticking out top and bottom to line up on your spindle. Let's see here. Next thing I want to do is I just kind of want to, I don't remember which way this went through. Okay, it looks like it goes through from this end. As you can see, the threads are sticking out on that end. So once I get lined up in there, into that slot, I'll be able to tap this in. That'll lock everything down. Then I can tighten up this. It has a star washer, plus it's a nylock nut. You don't want that thing coming off at all. So we know how that goes. Now I want to take this and stick it in here like this. I want to put the bearing in here. Right now I'm trying to determine my shims. Nice thing, there's not a lot of play in there, which is awesome. Let's see how many shims I can fit in here. I can't remember if these shims are like 5 thousandths a piece. Now I'm going for up and down motion, and that's got a little bit in it yet. See if I can sneak another one in there. Well, that feels pretty darn good. Now I'm eyeballing everything down through here to make sure there's no shims sticking in the hole. The goal is to be able to shove this pin through it, and I got it long side down, this toward the, this is where it gets a little tricky because I want to make sure those shims don't get folded over. We're good there. There we go. Now that we got it started, we know it's going to line up with the other side really well. So now I want to just see if we can get this bumped through. I dropped my hammer halfway here. It fell out of my pocket. I think we can get it knocked in now. That's through the bearing. Can't tell. There it goes. Just had to hit the perfect spot, eh? Oh. Well, that's nice. No wiggle, no play. It's gonna last a long time. Now I want to try to see that flat spot in there. Might be a little more difficult. I did bring my channel locks because this will rotate now. There's the flat right there. There we go. Oh, love it when a plan comes together. A little old tappy tap tap. Well, that moves so nice. Now the other cool part is you got these O-rings. They go right down there and they fit right down tight against that bearing, which is going to help keep all the dirt and debris that's coming down. It's one for the top, one for the bottom. I brought my handy dandy grease dispenser here. We get the bottom one here. Now with these battery operated grease guns, I'm not one just to squeeze the crap out of the trigger. Depending on the circumstances, you can actually blow seals out of stuff. So that's why I'm kind of easing it and working it. Give it a couple cycles. Yeah, I got grease coming out the bottom. But there you have it. Spindle fully installed. As you can see how much that drew that in. It's actually sunken in, probably good 3/16 of an inch on the other side. Quite a bit of thread sticking out now. Pulled in tight. I mean, that spindle is solid. That's what we're after. Now let's go get ourselves set up with the hub. Let's do some bearing installation and greasing. Can only really do one side because there again only have one Kingpin bushing right now, or Kingpin set. More to come. I actually emailed there again, like I spoke of earlier, the place I bought this set from that I was supposed to get both sets from correctly. Still haven't. And so I went ahead, and I don't have a lot of money just to throw around, guys, and just to make sure I get this tractor going. I mean, like today, it's 77 out. It's beautiful. Today and tomorrow are supposed to be two of the best days we've had this year so far. And here I am. Can't put it back. Even if I get everything else done on it, I can't run it. Those tripod backhoes don't seem to function very well. But the other good news is I did find on, what was it called? BrokenTractors.com. They have stuff too, like I said. Now, it did order a Kingpin set from them. They actually have the size description of the Kingpin size in their description, which is very helpful. All right, let's go ahead and tackle one of these guys. I've got all new bearings, seals. Let's get her greased up and rocking and rolling. Like I said before, I spent a lot of time cleaning parts up, so you guys don't have to spend time watching me clean parts. You know, to get everything as grit-free and dirt-free as possible should be your goal. And that's what I've done here. Now, in this particular setup, it has another dust shield, it looks like, that goes on the spindle. This actually kind of fits tightly on the spindle, and it goes on here. It's just extra dirt protection to actually help, keep stuff away from the seal itself to make your seal last longer. So we'll have to reinstall this. This one is a little loose. It should press on there, but that's easy enough to fix just from the simple fact that all I gotta do is take and kind of knock this in a little bit, and then I can push it back on there and it'll be on there nice and tight again. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish drying this off because I don't want any solvent in here, because it's just gonna break down my grease. That won't do you any good. I think I'll do a final flush with brake clean. Nice thing is about brake clean is it dries fast and doesn't leave any residue behind. I'm not sure my bearing driver kit goes as big as these big boys, but if you don't have a bearing driver kit and you do a decent amount of trailers and stuff like that, I highly recommend it because it just makes life so much better. It actually beats, pun intended, I guess, beats driving on this edge round and round and round until you get it down in there. So it looks like this kit actually does. This came from the Hobo Freight store. And I am putting, let's just call it OEM. It looked like it had Kingpin bearings in it originally. That's why I'm sticking back in it. Because, yeah, I paid up for them. Kingpin bearings are not cheap. But by golly, like I said, I'm doing everything here with the intention of not touching this thing for a decade or two. And this just makes quick work of putting these bearings in. It really does. Couple of bouncy bounces like that. That is so fast and so easy. Now we need to pack my bearings. Some of these bearings came in as cup and cone separate. I had to buy them separate. Some came with cup and cone together. But we're talking over $100 worth of bearings here for this guy, I'm pretty sure. Let's see if this will actually bearing pack for me. This is a fast and easy way to do it, and it works. Oh yeah. Now some of you might go, well, I like just taking and putting it in the palm of my hand, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. I like this, because it just pushes grease up through and around everything. Then you just smear a little more around the outside and you're done, because it just forces it up there behind the bearing. Saves a ton of time. Then I take the excess that I push out and I go ahead and just, let's just say we slobber it in there. Just like that, the bearing's packed and my hands are nasty. For fun, I'll go ahead and pack the small one too, the same way. Just walk it around like that. As you can see, it's worked up between every single roller. Don't get any better than that. Now I'll leave a link in the description down below for these same items on Amazon, this bearing packer and the driver for Amazon. Because if you use the Amazon link, it really does help the channel out. Okay, it helps me out. Gives me a little kickback, doesn't cost you a dime. All right. Now we got a seal to put in. Another good thing about the bearing driver, flipped over backwards becomes a seal driver on this instance. This looks like it might just make it. Now, this bearing driver here isn't bigger than the seal, so I don't want to accidentally drive it in there too far. So I'm going to grab me a plate, put over here to drive it down flush to this surface here. This should work. It's a chunk of aluminum, just a little bit bigger than the... There we go. Beautiful. That's ready to go back on the tractor, just about. One more bearing to go. Now I like using this red and tacky grease because you can see how it strings. Well, that stringiness helps it transfer from bearing to bearing as it's rolling. Keeps it from, you know, just slinging it, getting away from the bearing and not being there. And it'll just hang in there a lot longer. There we go. This is ready to go back on the tractor. Just that fast. What I really like about this whole setup is you can just keep your mess contained just like that. And then I wipe down the outside and you're done. Now that we have bearings packed, let's go ahead and slide this puppy back in place. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Now it only lasts 4 decades instead of 5 decades. That. I'm basically trying to get everything, you know, all the slack taken out. There. She's tight like that. I'll back it off to the next cotter pin opening. That way she won't come out on me. Nice and tight. Now I brought me my wire wheel out here because now that I've got it fastened up to something that'll hold it for me, let's clean it up a little bit. Get a little never sees on here. Oh yeah, good stuff. Sure. Well, that never sees just made a mess out of everything, but oh well, it's there. Well, folks, the good news is one wheel assembly is complete. I just got to put the tie rod back on, tighten it all down, and I'll do that when I get the other side on. I'll tighten it all at the same time. Don't need to, it'll help me remember to do it next time if I do them both together. That's just the way I'm thinking, okay? Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something today about some hand reaming. Like I said, that was an H12. If you look up the sizes, they have a range that they cover on those hand reamers. The one I thought I bought, the first one I bought, said it handled between inch and a 16th, an inch and 3/16, and these are inch and an eighth. And it was an H13. That was wrong. It was advertised as wrong. So it ended up being an H12, which you saw me use. And that covered the range that was right there, perfect for that inch and an eighth. Alrighty, well, I hope you guys found this video informative and helpful, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you on the next video. Take care of one another and be kind. This is Michael. I'm out.